What's up, Bridal Babes? I hope you're ready for another exciting episode of your favorite local wedding show, Bridal Buzz. I'm your host, Kat, and happy Halloween, Bridal Babes. Today is October 31st, and I hope you get into some safe and spooky fun. Today's episode is featuring Priscilla Rodriguez of Modern Wellness Counseling, and we're going to be talking all about how to plan your wedding and not your family's. So if you're looking for some assistance on how to set some healthy boundaries, this is the episode for you. Quick shout out to today's sponsor, Hyatt Regency Hill Country Resort and Spa. We'll talk more about them as we get going, but with that, let's get started. I feel like I have my, this is the stem of my pumpkins over here.
It looks good. I was just thinking, it matches.
Yeah, love it. Thank you, Starbucks. I got this with my points, my star points, so really glad about that.
Points for everything.
Anyway. So, Priscilla, thank you for coming in. Bridal Babes, if you haven't heard Couples Corners episodes before, make sure you go check out the full playlist on our YouTube channel. And every episode is going to be designated as a Couples Corner on our podcast streaming playlist. So make sure you go listen to those. Priscilla comes in once a quarter. So let's talk a little bit about today's topic, a little bit about your business. So give them just a little spiel in case they don't know who you are and what Modern Wellness Counseling is about.
Yeah. I'm so excited to be here. And it's always nice to be sharing just very normal information. I feel like with couples, I think sometimes this information can feel a little anxiety provoking, a little bit scary sometimes.
Getting into the feelers.
Yeah, all couples experience this, so it's not really scary. It's just that we need to talk about it a little bit more. But a little bit about me: I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist. I own Modern Wellness Counseling. We offer online counseling for couples who are engaged, who are dating, and who have been married for many years. So if you are ever in a situation that you want to speak with a licensed clinician, feel free to reach out to us. We can definitely help. And we also offer online courses as well for maybe couples who are like, ooh, strangers, I don't want to share that. And that makes total sense. So that's why we made the online courses to still help.
Yeah. They're like, I'd rather just do it from home on my own. Yeah. Love it. Love the options. Love the accessibility. Definitely, Bridal Babes, check out Modern Wellness Counseling for premarital help, postmarital help, anything you need to just feel more secure and set in your relationship.
Absolutely.
So today's topic is one that I feel like almost every single couple planning a wedding is going to have to deal with at some point. You're going to have to establish your own limits of how much you're going to allow other people's input to affect your decision making on your big day. So many things. So talk to me a little bit about the general idea here.
Yeah. So biggest part is this is kind of the first time that your couple relationship is forming its own unique identity, right? So of course you want to be able to take some things from your family, maybe your partner's family, especially when we think about just family traditions, right? If it aligns with you, if you grew up thinking oh yes, I can't wait to get married because I saw my grandma do this, my mom do this, my sister do this, I want to do it too. Of course, go for it, right? But then there are things that's oh, I hated that. I hated seeing all that, or maybe what it means, or maybe regardless of what it is, right? Then there's that part where it's I want us to create something different. I want our ceremony to be to pretty much resonate of who we are, right, versus what my mom did.
Yes.
And that's totally fine too. The biggest part is just knowing what that is, right? Just kind of knowing what you want. It's okay for it to be different than what you've seen in your family, or maybe even what your partner has seen in their family. So I think this is the big part, just to kind of think about this is us coming together as a new unit, and we're creating our own identity, and this is kind of that first step. And
every family dynamic is different, and so I feel like you're saying, this wedding is the first moment where you're probably making a lot of these bigger decisions independently and having to learn how to establish that independence. And I could imagine some families being a lot harder to kind of break away, fly out of the nest than others. Especially I have a bigger family, but I could imagine if you're the only child, there's just so much weight and pressure around this is our one kid that's getting married, and we just need to make sure it goes perfectly. But what the parents are forgetting is that it's not their wedding, it's their kid's wedding. So And I could especially see it being difficult when it comes to like religious traditions, cultural traditions. The parent might have been thinking about that for their, you know, their child's whole life. Yeah. And then they get to this wedding planning moment and it's not exactly what they anticipated. So let's walk through the blog, because Bridal Babes, there is a blog on sanantonioweddings.com if you want to read this information as well as listen to it. So the first step that we have on here is, why is it hard to say no? And I feel like I was kind of just mentioning like those family dynamics and maybe just the way you were raised and things like that. But talk to me a little bit about why people might have a hard time establishing that no.
Right. Yeah. I think at the very beginning, it's hard to say no, especially if you know how much it means to whoever it is that's telling you, whether it's your grandma, your mom, your dad, your sister, your future mother-in-law, right? That it's, oh, this is so important for them and this meant so much to them, but actually it's not the same for me, right? Yeah. So it may be really hard to say no in that moment. Another reason why it may be hard to say no is that maybe they're paying for the wedding. Yeah. Maybe they're the ones who are like putting thousands of dollars in, and it's like, oh, I kind of at least owe them this, right? To at least go along with this part, even though it may not resonate with you. Yeah. So I think those are some of the hardest pieces, or kind of hardest parts, is like, like I'm going to get someone upset, or I feel like I owe them this, because they are putting so much money into it.
Yeah. And I feel like it's difficult to understand the difference between maybe a gift for the wedding and then it feeling like the parents are almost like the managers, right, like the fund and the sponsors of the event. And I guess every family is different in the way that they want to handle that, but maybe just proper communication about, this is what this money means. 'Cause the worst thing is just, expectations without communication about it. And so if a parent is expecting, well, I'm paying for the food, I should be able to pick out what's on the plate, but the child is just thinking, you're giving me this money so I can have the wedding of my dreams. They're on two separate pages. And so how would you recommend people go about that conversation from the beginning to just know from day one where everyone's at in their headspace?
Yeah. I think you said it just like perfectly right there, as far as, oh, this is like, thank you for this gift, right? Thank you so much for helping me, be able to create the wedding of our dreams and to be able to do this, right? So like, I think it's very much at the very beginning, like you shared, setting that expectation of, thank you for this gift. This isn't that you get to, you put in 50%. That means you have 50% of the decisions, right? Yeah. It's not like a business kind of thing. So definitely being able to verbalize that up front, that you're helping support my decisions and my goals and my dreams for this one day. Yeah. And maybe even after that, right? Maybe the part of their money is for a down payment on your home, or, your honeymoon, or, right. I know families kind of help out in different ways. It's not just always the wedding, right, but it's always, normally to help a new couple kind of launch a little, go a little bit further. Yeah. So I think that is really important to just know up front that this is a gift versus this is my ownership of the decisions. Yeah. And if that is what the parents are viewing it as, the child needs to decide whether or not they want to accept that, and the worst case scenario would be, waiting too long into your wedding planning to understand that that's the situation at hand. And then having all of these deposits and contracts already committed for maybe a budget that you personally cannot afford on your own. So how would you recommend for couples that are getting married, planning their weddings, to practice saying no? Yeah. I think a big part is sometimes people feel that if I say no, I'm going to be mean. Right? There's this idea of, I say no, I'm going to be mean, or I'm going to be viewed this, certain way. You don't have to be rude or mean or yell, right? It's a very simple, thank you so much for that recommendation. However, we are choosing to go with this part. Or, I know you mentioned you did that at your wedding. Yeah, we had a lot of fun, but we're actually going to do something different for ours. It's just a very much, acknowledging the other person. Yeah. Right. They're still a person, acknowledging, maybe they have a different viewpoint. It's okay. But it doesn't mean just like outright just saying like, oh, that's such a stupid idea. Yeah. Attacking their, their opinions. Right. And yeah, I think it definitely has to be kind of like an invitation
to be a part of the wedding on the couple's own standards, right? And if the parents, if the people wanting to contribute don't want to meet them in that place, then the couple needs to decide what their priorities are. Do they want to compromise some of their own wishes to have a little bit more funds on the side? Or do they just want to commit to what they want to do and, you know, do it together and see what happens after that? So I think, again, it comes down to every couple and every family being different and establishing that communication and that, I like the idea of it's like an invitation to participate. You don't have to. And this is what we want to do, and we'd love you to be a part of that, but you don't have to. So before we keep going, let's give a quick shout out to today's sponsor, Hyatt Regency Hill Country Resort and Spa. Bridal babes, if you have a lot of people coming in from out of town, if you're looking for that destination wedding feel within your city, Hyatt Hill Country is the perfect venue for you. They have all of the guest accommodations you could need on site, venues, delicious catering, amazing, fun amenities for your guests to enjoy while they're here for the weekend. That's Hyatt Hill Country Resort and Spa. Make sure you check them out and consider them for your wedding today on SanAntonioWeddings.com. Again, that's Hyatt Hill Country Resort and Spa. Okay, so I feel like a big part of this topic of establishing your no, saying this is my wedding and not my family's, is knowing that you're in it together with your partner. So like you were saying earlier, this is one of the biggest first milestones of decision making and heavy weighted moments, kind of, you know. There's going to be hard moments, there's going to be really fun moments, but it's a lot of firsts for these engaged couples. I can speak from my own perspective. It's there's lots of ups and downs, but it all comes down to being in it together. So talk to me about decision making as a couple and how to encourage that along the way.
Yeah. So definitely being able to just take time together to kind of explore, like, hey, what is it that we both want? You know, I think whether it's starting, you know, with family or decorating house or wedding planning, I think just our society is like, whatever the woman wants, right? Whatever she wants, right? Just happy wife, happy life kind of thing. But it's like, well, maybe both people want to be involved, right? And maybe even just like the female in the relationship wants the other person also involved, right? So
maybe I don't want to do everything on my own.
Right, to carry that like mental and emotional load. There is this part of having both people involved in making that decision together. So I get that things can get really hectic and crazy and busy, you know, with just day to day, right? Going to work, filling up your gas tank, like, you know,
feeding
cleaning
the
up.
cats,
just like all the things, right? So just making some time together of like, hey, do you like this? Actually, I don't. Okay, what do you recommend, right? And like making space for both people to have an opinion. And to even figure out like, hey, you know what, like this is something I'm really having a hard time deciding on, right? It may be very like trivial, right? Like acrylic versus glass, right? Or, you know, something so like small, right? But it's like, how can we make this decision together, right? So I think definitely making that time, putting time aside to just have that conversation is so important, and versus just feeling like, oh, I had to do this all by myself, because that's already like setting up just like little expectations of like how things are going to go along the way, especially for things that are so small. And
coming back to the planning your own wedding and not your family's, I feel like there can be certain situations where one member of the couple is a little bit more passive, maybe a little bit more willing to bend the knee to their family because that's just been the dynamic their whole life. And this is probably where premarital counseling can come in and save the day. But how would you recommend the other member of that relationship to support and kind of help that more passive person become more strong in their opinion and become more willing to establish their no and stay true to who they are?
I think it's very much also figuring out if the person who in this example like is passive actually doesn't want to be doing those things, right? Like for them, if it's just like, I don't care, or it doesn't matter, right? They may not have that motivation to want to change, but if it is like, gosh, I'm having such a hard time saying no, but I'm just going to go along with it just to avoid the confrontation, right? it can be helpful to hear the other person say like, hey, like, it's not, this isn't going to be a bad decision. Like, we're still in this together. Yeah, whoever may be a little bit upset for the time being, but this doesn't resonate, like, your value, your worth, like, them loving you, them completely, like, disowning you, right? Because I think this is, like, a bigger issue of, like, I'm just going to go along with things, and maybe that's just how it's been their whole life because they want to avoid confrontation and they want to avoid, maybe just, like, this bigger fear, right? That may not be real in that moment, right? So I think it's just a matter of, like, having that support and verbalizing, like, hey, like, I've got your back kind of thing.
Like, we're in this together. And, like, I will stand up for you when you are having a hard time doing it for yourself. So as we come toward the end of this episode, talk to me a little bit about what you would recommend for couples that are having a hard time in that decision-making process and maybe staying true to what they are wanting versus what their family is wanting.
Very much this part of going into the wedding planning process, you're going to get flooded with so many ideas, so many cool things, whether it's on Pinterest, listening to other couples get engaged, hearing podcasts, or, kind of searching San Antonio Weddings website. There's just so many great ideas. But more important is that in order to not get, like, flooded, is just staying grounded with the decision that you and your partner have already made. For example, we're going to have a destination wedding, and that is our dream. That is what we want, right? Because other people may say, really, why do you want to have that? It's going to be so expensive. Or your aunt from so-and-so isn't going to be able to go. Or, so there's going to be comments being made, but if you're able to stay grounded in what the two of you have already decided, using that as your kind of guide to make decisions, right? Because if you can kind of think of just like, this is our goal, and does this decision align with the goal? Right. Yes, no? Okay, then we're not going with it. Right? So that can definitely be helpful for a couple wherein they're hearing so many ideas being thrown at them, because it can be overwhelming. I know from my own experience, it's like, we're going to have this. And then, something shiny and bright comes out, like, ooh, what about this other thing? Right? And maybe we kind of tweaked it here and there because it's, you start justifying, like, it's a once-in-a-lifetime thing, or, this is our big day. We deserve it, right? So I think it's more important of what is that guiding part? Does it align with that? Maybe it's even finances, right? Like your budget can be like, hey, we only have X amount of dollars for a cake. Like, we cannot go over, this amount for a cake. So having to really be grounded in certain decisions together.
And what kind of tools and resources, I know you mentioned earlier that you have some online courses and things available on your website that could probably help with some of these issues. Talk to me a little bit about those.
So one of my favorite ones is actually a free conversation checklist that I think all engaged couples, and really any couple, should take a look at. It's free on our website, and it goes through just different ways of talking about finances, about kids, expectations in your relationship. So just finding that opportunity to go through, like, okay, have we talked about these big
the iconic hard
parts?
Questions.
And then we also have just some other guides on there as well that are really affordable for couples. And then, of course, our online relationship courses that also help you save money on your marriage license. So
amazing. Thank you so much, Priscilla, for coming in. And Bridal Babes, if you have any other questions about this topic, if you want to learn more from Priscilla, make sure you check her out online. Modern Wellness Counseling, is that your handle across? Okay, perfect. So definitely listen to all the Couples Corners episodes. Check Modern Wellness Counseling out today. And another shout out to today's sponsor, Hyatt Regency Hill Country Resort and Spa. Make sure you check them out for your wedding on sanantonioweddings.com. And don't forget, the buzz does not have to stop here. We are everywhere online, and we have new episodes every week for Bridal Buzz. So with that, we'll see you next time.